Hey everyone, it is Lou here from Click Love Grow. Welcome to day 2 of our Through Her Lens online series where we are talking to inspiring and amazing Click Love Grow advanced grads. And today we're chatting to the beautiful Amy Holcombe. Amy, welcome.
Thanks, Lou. It's lovely to be here.
So nice to chat with you. You've got such a fun story, which I can't wait to dive into and share some of your images with everyone. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from in the world, and how you found Click Love Grow?
So I am a farmer in central Queensland. So we're at Marra, which is about 2 hours southwest of Rockhampton. We brought this place back in 2013, so nearly 10 years ago. And I really wanted to capture my family in the life that we live. Like that was my absolute desire, was just to showcase our lifestyle at that point. I had 2 little girls. I didn't even have my son at that point. But yeah, so I started Googling lots of things, and I came across the enthusiast course, and that's where I learned how to use the camera in manual mode. And I did it twice. That was during, I must have been pregnant with my son and when I'd had my son.
Yeah.
And so after I did the second one, that was when I went on to, I just wanted to know more. And having a very stationary son, it was very easy to take photos of him. So I found, I went on and did the advanced course, which was awesome.
And so was when you bought your farm, was that like a really big lifestyle change for you?
It was huge. We've been in agriculture all our lives. So my husband, we were in Western New South Wales, and my family had come from the farm as well. But we had been previous to that living in town because we were off farm. There weren't enough houses for us. And so, buying our own farm and moving to it was amazing. And we just wanted to celebrate that.
Yeah, well, I can just imagine too, living like a new lifestyle and moving your family there. It makes so much sense to be able to want to document that and tell those stories. And so you had a really fun story, I thought, from when you were thinking about taking the advanced course, because what was it that you specifically wanted to improve in your photography?
Lighting and composition. So composition was my big thing. Like, I knew how to use the camera. I could take photos, blurring the backgrounds. I learned the techniques, but actually creating the feeling that I wanted to create in a photo, that was where I was really struggling. So that was my big push to do the advanced course. And I went to a workshop with quite a well-known central Queensland photographer, and she told me that composition couldn't be learned. And it just about crushed me. I just thought, wow, I'm never going to get any better than what it is. And anyway, it can be learned. I've since learned that, because my photography is very different to what it was back then. So
your photography is beautiful, and that would be so soul crushing, thinking, oh, I don't have that inherent built-in skill set, and having someone turn you away. That's not cool.
So it was, that was a tough one. And I suppose that's why it stuck with me, because I still remember her saying that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it.
That's so disappointing. Well, Amy, we're going to have a look at your photos. I have your before and after that we can show, just to prove, the big advancements that you made in your photography. And you shoot absolutely beautiful compositions now and use the light gorgeously. And one of the things we're also going to talk about is dream photography jobs. And I think this is exciting because for many of us, like you said, we start out, we want better photos of our kids, we want to document our lives. But for many people who then go on to start their businesses, there are these fantastic, exciting, and maybe even unexpected opportunities that pop up. I'm just going to shout out and say hi to Muriel. She said, so glad I made it today. Kelsey's listening in from Florida. Rebecca's listening in from Florida too. I love that we have people from all over joining us. But let's bring up and have a look at your photos, Amy. And while I do that, was that in fact your favorite part of the course? Or what was your favorite aspect?
The lighting, I love lighting. That was, and I suppose because I was crushed that, I couldn't apparently improve my composition. The lighting was probably my favorite part. So learning to use that lighting. And I honestly think learning to use the lighting then helped my composition along the way. Like it all worked.
That makes sense. Yes. And it's good when all those pieces come together. And sometimes I think too, when I teach specifically, I'm very much about pulling out, different sections and teaching things very individualistically so that they can click into place. But then there's that point, obviously, where it all does come together in a way that makes sense. And that's what I love to see, when students kind of master each of those individuals, but it's the bringing it together that's really exciting. Okay, I've found my screen now. So here is your before photos. So are these your two little girls?
They're my girls. So they would have been probably 2 and 3.5 there, I suppose.
So cute.
I think that was actually the first flood that we had through the creek. So
Got their gumboots on.
Yep. There's some other ones where my youngest one, she's tipping the water out of her gumboot after she dropped it.
Cute. And so here is an after photo. There's a really big difference between those photos, Amy. Obviously, we always love the before photos because, especially when it's our kids, right? There's still the memories, there's still the great stories behind it. But photographically speaking, how do you feel when you see the difference in those images?
It is a huge difference. And like these kids are kids that I know well anyway. So I see them in that picture and I'm just like, that means a lot to me anyway, just because they are kids I know. But just to be able to capture that for their mum and dad is beautiful.
Kelsey said, love your tones. Absolutely. You can see here, you are applying everything. You're using the gorgeous light. It's framed beautifully. There's so many. I love how each of them have such a different expression in the photo. It's such good storytelling.
They're some funny kids. The little girl, the youngest girl, she is hilarious. I call her Grinchy because she smiled like a Grinch that day. It was so funny, but it was just her at that point in her life. And Jack's like, he's just that expression is him to a T. So and Addie's such a poser.
Okay, so now you've moved on to capturing images for other people as well. So tell us about that side of your photography and about this photo, because this is beautiful.
I love this photo, and this photo was taken at 2:30 in the afternoon. Like I love that. That's just so that is this young girl, young woman now. So this is obviously her formal photo, and she actually used to take my little daughter on the bus. She lived across the road from me, back when she was, probably 11, and like I spent most of that day holding that camera above my head. She is so tall and I was standing on a rise here to be on eye level with her. But these photos are like being able to capture that memory for her, like that means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's gorgeous. She looks like Rachel Barry from Glee.
Absolutely beautiful. Like her family is a lovely family, and this is in a back lane somewhere in Rocky. Like there's this building that I love to use, and I don't know, it's different altogether. Like I know a lot of my families because I come from a small community. If I don't know them, I know of them.
Yeah, which
probably adds to it. But
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I love being able to capture their
memories. And so Lorinda said this yesterday, that she also loved being able to learn how to rim light and use this effective lighting, backlighting, even when it's not golden hour, even at different times of the day.
Yeah. And that's it makes a huge difference. And it's probably only something that I've really, really grabbed hold of and tried to do in the last probably 2 years, because especially like these formal shoots, like they have to be finished and ready to go to their formal walkthroughs by 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So most of the time we're not even hitting golden hour before we're finished with the photos. As I said, this one would have been taken at 2:30 in the afternoon. So just being able to learn how to soften that light against them and using the dark backgrounds to show the rim lighting on them.
Yeah.
And still, not being afraid to just go, we're just going to do this, just even though it isn't the really beautiful light. But until you really look at the photo, you really can't tell that it wasn't taken during softer light times. So
no, and you've got all those gorgeous tones and textures in the building, which obviously I think is important because it shows kind of where you are and tells the story about location. So I'm sure she would have been thrilled with those photos. So obviously you were saying you get to photograph lots of families in your community. And that was probably, I'm assuming you didn't go into learning photography to become a professional photographer, but that was one of the things that came along. But there's been another fantastic job that you've been able to do as a photographer. Can you tell us about that?
So probably July last year, I got a message from Graziher, and they had this was actually the first story I ever did from the one that you've got on the screen now. And this is a banana family. So they're only about half an hour away from where I live.
Yep.
And I actually knew the young lady in this picture, but I didn't actually know this story.
Oh,
but anyway,
right.
so Graziher contacted me and said that they had this beautiful story that had come through their email network, and they needed someone to shoot it tomorrow pretty well.
Oh, wow.
And it was, yeah, we had tight deadlines to get the thing, but so just to have them reach out to me going, we need you to come and shoot this photo. They actually had thought, because I'd worked with one of their journos before, they thought I had actually worked for the magazine, but I hadn't. And so I managed to get this sort of leg in. And once I shot this particular story, it was that I've worked for them pretty well every issue since, I think, aside from one. So,
and tell us
this
about
is the latest one.
Yeah, this is gorgeous, but tell us a little bit more about the magazine.
Well, so the magazine is based, so it's written for rural women,
which I love.
It started back in 2015. I was one of the first subscribers to the issue, which is hilarious because it was when it first came out, like, I love the stories, but I just loved the photographs that were in it. And so, it's one of those things where you always think, wouldn't it be amazing if you ever one day got your photo in there?
Yep.
So it took me over an hour to call the Graziher lady back when she messaged me, because I was so nervous, thinking, oh my God, this is well, it was. It's the dream come true type thing, an opportunity that I never for a second thought I was going to get. So and then this is the current issue that's out on the stands, and it was a whole nother, like, they actually flew me to Townsville to shoot this one.
How exciting.
And it is very exciting because they're a lovely family. It's a beautiful story, but also when I sent in the sample images the day after I shot this one, Victoria, the editor's like, these might suit the cover. What do you think? Like, send me everything that might be the cover. So we actually got the cover image for that one as well, which is pretty cool. Like, and that was not even a dream. I didn't even think that could happen. So
yeah, well, congratulations. I mean, looking at, the range of stories in the magazine and your style and aesthetic of imagery, it just aligns so beautifully and gives such a vivid sense of, that environment and the people who work there. And so yeah, that's exciting. Congrats. So yeah, I think I'm going to pull up, there's one more I want to show you, or show everyone. Here's another one as well. And so that's great. So now you get to shoot for them for all different projects.
Yeah. So we've got another one. I've got one for a local family that's going in the next issue as well, but then another one I believe we're going to be going to Townsville for next week. So which is pretty cool. Just being able to, like, it's the storytelling component. It's being able to, so where I love that is they come to me and they go, this is what this is the story we're trying to tell with this. And I then am required to create the stories, the pictures to tell that story. And that, I love it. It's probably it's my favorite thing, the whole storytelling side of it. So
absolutely. And so is this one of the images that was part of that story that's in the current edition. So if you are a woman in agriculture in Australia, look for this magazine. So tell us then about, you know, pulling together this photo, and obviously working with animals is going to add an extra element to the shoot.
In particular, like I don't know how much you know about photographing horses, but when you have horsey people,
Not much.
the horses, so the horse on the right of the screen, its ears are perfectly placed. The other two are not.
Got it.
Usually you will have someone behind you, or if it depends whether you need the horse to look or not, but ideally the horse's ears would be facing forward the same way that they are facing. And so we culled images for the front cover of this for this story because the horse had a terrible look on its face.
Oh.
There are images that will never see the light of day because of that. So yeah, so this one I actually had them walking. We started down near the trees, and originally they were walking, and then they just got to a spot, and I just said, right, just talk amongst yourselves. And once the horses sort of settled in and they started patting them and talking to the horses as well, it just fell into place. Like there's a series of these ones. I love this. The only bit that breaks my heart with this is one of their daughters aren't there.
Okay. Yeah.
She was in America. I'm like, if that's not a family photo that you would put on the wall, I don't know what is. Like that.
It's absolutely beautiful. Colleen said, is it Tony Burke and family?
It is. Yeah.
Yes,
Tony
there
and
you go, Colleen. Good recognizing. I love a small world. A small world connection. The other thing I love about the magazine too is that it's a magazine telling stories of women. So obviously at Click Love Grow, you know, we're a community of women and we connect over photography. So I love that you're able to combine two of those worlds together.
There's so many amazing women's stories out there that just don't get told or don't get seen. So it is really lovely to see those stories being told. That's one of my favorite bits. It's beautiful, and I love this image.
Kelly says, I love the Graziher Magazine. My mother-in-law brought me a 2-year subscription a few years ago, and I love it so much. Your photos are incredible, Amy. And Colleen says she lives in Marlborough, so she must be close.
Well, Claire, so you might know Claire McTaggart. That's one of the journos that I worked with before I started working with magazine.
There you go. So speaking of women's stories, tell us about this photo here. Again, you know, that tree behind them and the grasses and the time of day, like all of the elements are just telling such a beautiful story. You can almost like smell the landscape and imagine that you're there.
This one is beautiful. And so this was an extended family shoot. And so the young girl in the floral dress, she had actually organized this, and she had them all sorted into color tones and everything. Like
dream client.
I just did an amazing job with that. And her uncle actually picked out this location.
Beautiful.
He knew the tree was there, and he's like, no, this will be amazing. We'll go there and we'll take the photos there. And it is just, this was one of our freezing cold winter days in central Queensland. It was probably 16 or 17 degrees and blowing a gale.
Amy,
still wear a dress.
So not cold.
But this is, you know, it's just like the golden hues we get in winters here. The hayed off grass, it's just amazing. And then just backlighting those mountains in the background too. You couldn't have picked a better location than this one.
It's beautiful. And let's talk about some of the compositional elements, because obviously, you know, all your compositions in your work are really striking and well considered. What were some of the compositional techniques that helped you go, oh, or that you really enjoyed learning about?
I suppose knowing, like, you know, you go, how's the best way to put this? Learning what, you know, some of those guidelines that we go through, and as we learn, like, you know, your rule of thirds and that kind of stuff, but then learning how to break them. It's funny because I with a lot of my imagery, certain aspects of it will be offset, but I do a lot of center composition still, but it's for the right image. It's so knowing that those compositional elements are only, you know, a guideline. the biggest thing that I look at when I'm composing a photo is what is the story that I'm trying to tell, and what elements are really important to be able to tell that story. Like this one in particular, this was for another Graziher shoot, and it was an RB Sellers Graziher one. And so they love dust, they love rust, they love wood, they love there's that sign in the background, property sign in the mailbox, and those elements. So this was taken, I think, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock. Like we were just trying to use any time that we had available to shoot this one. And so to me, I was like, right, these kids are going to be playing, running. We need to create dust. We need to. So I told them they had to run straight at me, and every couple of steps just kick some dust so that we had dust in the background. And that's what they did for me. And so it was more about trying to tell the story here. And the old mailbox was part of their story, because kids growing up on a place, I used to love going to check the mail. Yeah. And, you were little and you were trying to reach into this big mailbox, and we had photos of little Poppy checking the mailbox as well. So it was more capturing who they are and what they were doing. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if that actually answered your question about the composition.
No, it does. It's always great to hear people's process and thoughts. But I think one thing too is creating that beautiful sense of balance, which you have. You have the overarching tree, and then you have the 3 kids, but then you have the letterbox there, which it just balances all really beautifully. But I also love those clouds. They really kind of create such a beautiful depth to the image. And so I think that really helps it work beautifully as well.
It would never have worked had we have been facing towards the west with that one. See, we were facing, they would have been running towards the north. Yeah. And so that's facing south. It would never have worked if we had have been angled any more to the west than what we were, because we would have lost that sky altogether at that time.
And it really does form such a beautiful backdrop, having the clouds and the sky there. And then one last gorgeous photo here, really different feeling, different lighting and even processing on this photo. But tell us about this photo and why you love it.
So these guys, little Paisley goes to school with my son. She's gorgeous. And they had, so Naomi's brief for me was, we need to take it at the end of the week crop, just before we harvest it. So they harvested this the next day. Yeah. But this was taken after the sun had gone down. Like, it's just, farming is such a big part of their life, and that's why it needed to be captured out there in the wheat crop. And those girls, they adore their dad, and he is such a great girl dad. And that's his entire world, is his girls and farming. And so this sort of shows that. And it's it's, I don't know, they've just such a beautiful connected family, and girls love to have their photos taken, and these girls in particular absolutely loved it. So
they do look like they're having a really great time. And I love the texture that you've captured in the wheat. Sometimes it's really tempting to just have the background disappear, but shooting it in such a way that you've got that incredible texture in the image that contrasts with the softness of the color and the light and the skies. And it's funny because shooting after sunset is actually one of my favorite times to shoot as well, but it can only work when you've got these big expansive skies to have enough light in the image still. So you've done such a beautiful job there.
Oh, it is. That is my favorite. That 15 to 20 minutes after the sun goes down, the light's so soft, it's so beautiful. And I guess we're lucky here because we're generally all out of town. So we all have these big expansive spaces, and it's just, the tones are just so different. It's just so milky and soft, and I love it. It's my favorite time.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And I'm sure if anyone hired you and they did live in town, you'd have plenty of places to be able to take them to.
We do quite a few out here. If they're like, do you have anywhere you recommend? I'm like, we'll do it on my driveway.
Perfect. That's so gorgeous. And I love that you've been able to take photography and you know, have these opportunities to work in a different field? Because I imagine you work on your farm as well.
Yeah,
So how do you find that balance?
I'm not good at it.
Yeah, none of us are.
No, it is great. And it's the type of thing, see, I don't ever want to be full-time photography. I want to do it to the point where I enjoy it and not, it's not too much. So it's great to have that creative outlet and be able to, do that and create those images for other people that were important to me and that I felt I couldn't capture when my kids were young, but then to be able to still balance it with our life in general and what we do here, and still be able to capture the story of what we're doing here. Like we're doing lots of stuff here at the moment that's pretty cool, and being able to capture that as well is awesome.
Yeah, that's a beautiful goal, to have both of those to complement each other, really. So big congrats on all the things that you've achieved with your photography, and I loved seeing the magazine spreads. So we are talking all about the advanced photography course this week. So I'd love to know, what was your favorite aspect of the course and taking part?
I don't. It was a fair while ago that I did it, so I'm trying to think what would my favorite part be, but I don't know, just I guess what I really enjoyed about the advanced course was the critiquing side of it, even like being able to, like, we had to put critiques in on others' photos and then have our photos individually critiqued, and learning that side, so that if you can't critique the photo, you don't know what you like about it, and you don't know what you don't like about it. So you can't improve the aspects until you can look at that properly. It's that part of it was probably the bit that stuck with me the most, because I still use it every day now when I look at photos of other people's that I love, and why do I love it? What do I love about it? It's, you're able to pull that out and then be able to use it in your way for your own photography.
That's a great one. And I think it's something that can feel a little uncomfortable for people to do initially. It can be like, what? But it is a real skill that you can carry forward. And I think too, being able to provide that critique in a space where you feel safe to do so, because you know that it's not going to go in any direction that's, you know, negative or not supportive. So I love that was one of the aspects that you enjoyed, and we definitely love being able to facilitate that inside the courses, because I think from a learning value it is really important.
And I would agree with that. I think it is probably one of the more important aspects. I mean, the course itself is great. Like there's so much good stuff to learn there. But yeah, that part of it continues. You're learning the whole way past the end of the course as well. So, and as you said, it is a safe place to do it. No one's there to have a go at your photos. Everyone's there to help you learn. So it's we're all there to do the same thing.
Beautiful. And so my last question is, if anyone is thinking about the advanced course, if they're watching, being inspired by your work, Amy, do you have any words of encouragement for them?
If you're thinking about it, just sign up for it if you can. Like I sat on the fence with it when I was looking at doing it, because I was only doing it for me. I was never doing it with the thought of going into business or anything like that. So I can't even remember what year it was when I did the advanced course, but it was a few years ago now, and I've only started my business in the last 18 months. And prior to that, it was purely for me. That was all it was for. So if you feel you want to know more and you want to take it deeper, I would recommend doing it. Like the advanced course is amazing to be able to take that next step. Like it's one thing to to be able to use your camera, but then to create the images that you actually want to create, that's the next place you want to go to.
Well, you've certainly taken all those skills and gone on to create beautiful images, Amy, and we love having you in our community and seeing your work. So congrats again on your magazine features. And thank you so much for chatting with me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Lou.
You're welcome. And to everyone watching, big thanks for being here and joining Amy and I. I'm going to be chatting to advanced grads all of this week. And if you've missed any of them, you can catch the replays here on our Click Love Grow Facebook page. Tomorrow, I'm chatting to Dana Whiteley. She's an advanced grad and a CLG workshop mentor, and I'm looking forward to speaking to her. So similar time again tomorrow. You can catch me online. And if you're thinking about the advanced photography course, it will officially be opening later this week. But check your emails if you're on the wait list, because there is an early access link so that you can dive in and grab your spot. Big thanks, Amy, and to everyone watching, and we'll see you online again soon. Bye. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Did it sound all right?